A few weeks ago, I made a studio tour video, and I'm really proud of it. I thought it was a tour de force, but after I was done with it and looking back, I realized it was maybe more of a tour de farce because there are a few things that really bother me. Specifically when I was talking about my equipment closet.
And the closet itself has become my equipment storage. Don't judge me on the messiness. There is a method to this madness, basically.
That was an excuse. I said, don't judge me, there's a method to this madness, and the method was that it was a mess and I didn't know what to do about it. And so realistically, if I'm making a studio tour video about, hey, this is how everything's set up and it's so great, but the part where my equipment, the super important stuff, the tools that I use to make my videos are just in disarray, that's a problem. And this isn't even the first time over the past 5 years that I've tried to tackle this problem. A few years ago, I built some shelves to create a gear closet. It worked great, and I loved it, but over time, it's gotten super cluttered. Sometimes these points of friction pop up in your workflow and you don't even realize it. You kind of just accept it as reality, but you don't realize how even little bits of friction can hugely negatively affect your workflow. That friggin' friction. But then something earth-shaking happened. And I mean that literally because it was an earthquake. We live in Southern California and we live very near an earthquake fault, so earthquakes aren't uncommon, and this wasn't really a big one, but over the past year, I've invested in a lot of higher-end gear. Multiple new Sony cameras, nice lenses, microphones, all this stuff. And as much as I love all of that gear being nice and neatly lined up on my bright white shelves, it looks cool, all I could think of was there being an earthquake and all of those things crashing down and breaking. So I decided I needed to do something about it. I needed to optimize my workflow, I needed to get things organized, and I needed to keep everything safe. And that would help make this space a fully functional audio-video studio. So the first thing I did was just empty out and tear everything out of that gear closet. Now my desks that I've been using for like 6 or 7 years now are actually just Husky workbenches from Home Depot, and I really like them. They are super strong, they're well built, they're pretty affordable. What I wanted was a small tool chest with a bunch of drawers and a nice surface on top so I could work on and put camera stuff together and just be organized. So even though I looked at all these organizational tools from like IKEA and Amazon or whatever, I ended up just going to Home Depot to look for a tool chest, and I found this really awesome Husky tool chest. It's not overweight, it's just a little Husky. And the one I found was perfect, but it also came with this top part that I didn't think I needed, but they wouldn't let me buy it without it, so I had to get both, and that turned out to be great. All the drawers on all these cabinets are also soft close drawers, which was something I didn't realize I needed in my life, and that basically means once you close the drawer most of the way, it kind of stops and then gently closes the rest of the way by itself. But then I put the cart in my most used, most accessible spot, and that's what has all of my most used gear. My cameras, my lenses, my audio gear, my grip gear, just the stuff that I'm constantly using almost on a daily basis. Plus it was blue. And speaking of blue, the results blew me away. Up here is just some things that I just needed to keep out of the way, but that I use kind of often in oddly shaped things like a gimbal or a mic holder or a light. The rack that would normally be for clothing, I use to clip all these like super clamps and then some Nan light clips there. Charging station hasn't changed. I do have like hooks and things to hold all these peripherals. The shelves themselves have things like camera cages, audio interface, wireless transmitter. We've got batteries, some tools that I use to put cameras together a lot. I did hang one of my Nan light Pavo tubes up here, so that way I can easily take it off if I need to, but it also makes a really nice work light. And then it is constantly being charged, so that way if I need it, I can take it out and use it. But here we go. This part right here is pretty much always clean except for what I'm currently using. So right now I'm using this lens, which has a rear and front cap, and then this camera, which has a front cap. So these things are here. Otherwise, there's nothing on here. It's just whatever I'm currently using. Everything is labeled and organized as best as I could possibly do it. The first drawer is pretty small, so it's just like filters and things. So I've got ND filters, memory cards, some small lights, my YOLO box, camera cleaner stuff, and here's that soft close thing I mentioned. Look how satisfying that is. You can't even slam these, you just close it. Without me touching it, it closes all the way. How cool is that? Next drawer is audio, commonly used audio. So we've got VideoMic Pro Plus, VideoMic NTG. The mic I'm using right now would normally be right here. Deity Pocket Wireless, Cloud Lifter, H4n, some mic mounts. Here's the Rode Wireless Go, and this little 3D printed box of adapters to connect basically everything to everything. These drawers came with this like soft grippy liner, so I like that. It works really well. I've thought of getting foam to like custom fit everything, but until I know exactly how I want it to work, I don't want to do that. The next drawer is super fun. This is all the grip gear that I use a lot. So I tried to keep things as organized as possible. Lots of ball heads and adapters, microphone clips, little articulating arms. These iFootage spider crab things have become so integral. I have my monitor over here with one, and on my main tripod now, that is how I have my microphone, the Sennheiser MKH50 attached. Basically, I can just, take off this arm, and what I have is this little adapter here, this little quick release thing from iFootage is just mounted into the tripod, and then there's a connector on the end of this, and when I want to use this boom arm, I just put it there, clip it in, and it's ready to go. But anyway, got a 3D printed Edelkrone flex tilt head, some baby plates. These small little tripods are always super handy. This one is really my favorite for using with cameras. This is the Polar Pro Apex base, and I like to take that and then just put this head over here from the Joby Gorilla Pod on here. And this thing can hold like 75 pounds. I put cinema cameras on here like the C200 and stuff before, and it holds them just fine. And now the super fun drawers, the camera drawer. Now, if you ever store your cameras or your lenses in an enclosed space, something to think about is moisture, because it is possible for fungus to grow inside of camera lenses, and that is no fungus. So to ensure that there was no fungus among us, even though we live in a super dry climate, and honestly, I'm not really worried about it here because our humidity is like always in the high teens or low 20s, it's crazy dry. Better to be safe than sorry. So I took some advice from my friend Jake Sloan, who made a video that I'll put in the description all about how to keep your equipment safe when it's in a container, and he recommended these little Desiccant Tins. Basically, I just gaff taped a magnet to the back of it. Oh no. And as I was saying, here is the totally organized camera drawer. It has this grippy bottom, like I mentioned earlier, so nothing tips over, even when I open and close it. But one day I'll probably get more form-fitting foam fitting taken care of up in here. But normally I have this camera I'm using, the A7S III is right here. This is the A7 IV. This is the FX3, which I absolutely love, the square chunky body of the FX3. It's awesome. Then I've got my Canon EOS R, some action cameras, GoPro 10, GoPro 5, and Insta360 1X something or other. This is really, really fun. Sony RX100 Mark V, and then the XLR top handle for the FX3. And right below this, lens, check out the lens collection. I do have foam here because the lenses can get top heavy and they could tip when the drawer opens and closes, so I'd rather have them lay down. This is just my old soundproofing foam that used to be on the wall over there. Now I just cut it to fit here. Desiccant over there. Here is the Sirui full frame anamorphic lens. That's what I use for the talking head part of this video. This is one of my favorite lenses to use. It's amazing. I love that lens. This is the Zeiss Batis 85mm 1.8. This is the Sigma 24mm 1.4. This was my main lens for a long time prior to using Sony cameras, and I can still use it because this is the Sigma MC11 adapter, which lets you adapt Canon lenses to Sony cameras. So here's my Canon 24-105. The Sigma will have full autofocus in video. The Canon lenses will only have full autofocus in photo mode and then manual focus in video. And I've got my EF to RF adapter for my EOS R there, my Canon RF 50mm 1.8, and my Sony 50mm 1.8. So these are kind of equivalent lenses between the two systems. In this case, they're both good, but the RF lens is significantly better. It's super sharp. I love this lens. And of course, the lens I'm using is the Sony 24mm 1.4 G Master. Speaking of organizing gear, one way to keep things clutter-free is to sell gear that you no longer need. So let's gear up to focus on the sponsor of today's video, Gear Focus. With Gear Focus, you can sell to an audience comprised exclusively of other photographers, videographers, and filmmakers. It's super easy to create a listing, and if you have a bunch of gear to sell, you can even set up an entire storefront with just a few clicks. You can set your own price, or you can enable the option to accept offers, and Gear Focus's fee is only 3.5%, and you don't have to pay anything until your gear actually sells. And honestly, the reason that I'm really excited about Gear Focus is because a few months ago, I sold my second Canon EOS R using a different service. I used one of those like camera gear trade-in services, and it was super frustrating, and I totally got ripped off. In fact, you might say I'm filled with regret for selling that R. So check out the link in the description where you can see how easy it is to list your own gear for sale, and you can also browse all kinds of other cool gear that people have for sale too. So thanks again to Gear Focus for sponsoring today's video, and now let's focus on the rest of my gear reorganization. And on the other side of the closet, I put things that I use slightly less often, and I built a platform just out of spare wood, and under that is where I can store all of my camera bags. So my camera bags are no longer just floating around, they're stored under the platform. And then I've got this really nice organized workbench thing that opens up and has a great work surface on the top of it. And then again, everything is labeled as organized as possible. And then I've got some USB-C cables, I've got HDMI cables, various power cables, all of my camera and guitar straps. Pretty much I've always used things from this company called Couch. They're based in Long Beach. They're amazing. All of their straps for cameras, guitars, whatever, are made out of upscaled old automobile interior fabrics. It's super cool. Here I've got audio cables, so a lot of XLR, just different audio cables. And the last drawer is more of my musical instrument stuff. Not necessarily photo video related, but stuff that's important and needs a home. So the gear closet is now perfect. It's everything I wanted it to be. But after I did that, I looked over here and I saw a completely cluttered mess. This desk here is an absolute mess, and I wish it were more organized, but before doing YouTube, this was just an extra bedroom, but over the past 5 years, it's become my studio space and my workspace, and this was the last remnant of a totally unrelated past. So this was my chance to get rid of that and make this a 100% usable, functional, practical studio space. So off to Home Depot I went, and this video is not sponsored, and you know how you can tell? Because Home Depot didn't have what I needed, and so I went to Lowe's, where I did find what I needed. I wasn't even originally planning to get 2 of these cabinets, and red was the only color they had. They did come with wheels, and they also came with side handles, so I just didn't put the side handles on them, and I didn't put the wheels on them so that they would fit under the desk. Besides that, the sides do have pegboard holders, so that's been a great way to store frequently used items. I was besides myself when I saw those sides. Speaking of sides, let's look inside. So there's 10 drawers here, and I actually don't even have all of them used. So the first one is office related things. So as I'm sitting here and working at my desk, this is the most commonly used stuff that I'm always grabbing for, but I'm trying to keep it organized. So cleaning cloths, glasses, calculator, Aquabat sticker, cables, tools, post-it notes, mouse, bell, you know, all the things you need. Below that is a nice spot for me to finally be able to store my product turntable and my slider. These things are really useful, but they're always kind of difficult to store, and I don't want them to get damaged. Now they have a nice safe home. Below that, I've got sort of computer related stuff. So this is a bunch of different USB cables, loop deck that I'm still figuring it out, color calibrator, hard drives, power adapters, just computer related things. I don't even have really all the drawers used. So this one, I don't know. Right now I just have my drone and my headphones in there, but I haven't really figured out what to do with that drawer yet. It's nice and big and deep. This next one looks like a mess, but I promise you it's actually not. It's just the kinds of cables that I'm always grabbing, and they can't really be put away because it would be inconvenient. So the half of the drawer over here is power cables, and the half of the drawer over here are some super commonly used longer HDMI cables. And I would like to get a drawer organizer, or as I call them, a Drawerganizer, to kind of divide these, but otherwise everything is wrapped up neatly, so once you pull something out of there, it's very easy to use, and they're not all getting tangled up with each other. This is sort of a goofy drawer, but this is actually like computer related stuff. So here's my 2013 MacBook Pro, some hard drives, and then a scanner, and my old keyboard. Here we have a drawer just full of boom arms. So there's the Elgato low profile, PSA1 Plus, PSA1, and all of their tabletop mounts and things. Here is an audio drawer that has some more commonly used audio things. some mic accessories, some adapters, mics that I switch out a lot that I don't currently have a spot for on the wall. Oh, and this weird thing, if you're wondering what this is a 1950s, I painted it, but it's a 1950s stand for the Unidyne style of microphone. So it's like this. This one is the original silver. This one came in this super weird color, so I painted it blue. There's another audio drawer that sort of just has like speaker, some mic boosters, my Yamaha mixer, shotgun microphone. And then down here, check this out. This drawer is empty because literally I have more space than I currently need, which means I can stay organized into the future. Ultimately, adding a few drawers and just cleaning up seems really simple, but the difference it's made is literally like night and day, or figuratively night and day. I have a really bad habit of sometimes getting distracted and just leaving stuff in random places, kind of like the remote control in the refrigerator situation, which is a thing that happens sometimes. And now that there's a place for everything and everything's in its place, it's easy for me to keep stuff organized and functional. So not only did I achieve what I set out to do after making my studio tour video, but I learned a lesson that I can share with you, which is pay attention to friction in your workflow. It's so easy to get used to these little inconveniences and these little tiny stressors and pain points and just get to the point where you're numb to them and you ignore them, but you don't realize how much they're affecting you. So if you try to be super conscious throughout your workflow, whatever it might be, or your workspace, and you notice any of these little pain points, really make a conscious note of that and then find a remedy for that. And the smallest things can really make the biggest differences. And speaking of making a difference, thank you to everyone who helps support my channel through YouTube channel memberships and Patreon. It really truly does make a difference. And if you want to see the rest of this space and maybe borrow/steal some ideas for yourself, check out my full studio tour video right here.